Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Holloway. This thing keeps getting a little bit more interesting for me. And how good is Volkanovski? Well, if you watch him with Chad Mendes, you start to come away with this guy can do a little bit of everything. This guy's strong. He's got great endurance. He's in your face. He really believes he could beat the best guys in the world. Okay. I mean, how much credit do you want to give a guy because he's got some confidence in his sport? On some levels, it sounds like a silly thing to say, but when you go get in there with a Chad Mendes for all those minutes and all those rounds, and you're trying to get a scary Chad Mendes out of there, a guy who'd been a top and perennial guy, been in there with the best in the world for a meaningful period of time, and you're walking in there like it's your house. I mean, there is something to that attitude that you can notice as an observer from TV. Okay, set that aside now. How is he going to do with a great striker? He did real well with a great grappler. How's he going to do with a great striker? And who's greater than Jose Aldo? Did real well with him. And it wasn't just that he did well with him, it was how he did it. He's very tenacious. I can't ever remember picking a guy to do well in a fight. What's so neat about this Volkanovski guy? Oh, he's tenacious. What? What kind of analysis is that? Seeing a guy that is tenacious, though, is very rare. It's a word that you don't use very often because it's not very common. I mean, this is a guy who's going to be in your face, smothering you. And however hard this fight's going to get, fighters are always looking for a break in a fight. It's an unwritten contract. You don't come after me, I won't come after you. Next time you come after me, I'm going to have to respond to you. But why don't we both catch our breath here for a little bit? It's much worse in boxing, but it has to be. Boxing has ruined its own sport by putting so many rounds out there. The guys have to have those deals. Let's go kill 3-4 rounds. I can't go it without killing some. You can't do it without killing. Let's make them these 3 or 4 right now. Then we'll figure out this fight later on. MMA, it is less common, but it does still exist. And when you have a guy like Volkanovski who goes, no, there's no deal. It's everything I have every single second I'm in here. That's a tenaciousness. That's an intangible. That is a word that you do not generally bring into the breakdown of a fight because you do not generally have the ability to. Add that to the fact that this is, and I'm talking about Volkanovski, the strongest man that Max has ever faced. I also have never found myself in giving a breakdown of a fight and talking about how strong one guy is. It seems a little bit silly, particularly when they're going to weigh in at the exact same thing. If I told you a guy was 400 pounds and whoa, you wouldn't believe it. He could hold a boulder up right over his head. You go, well, yeah, that's interesting. But after all, he does weigh 400 pounds. How are you going to tell me a guy that's 145 pounds is so much stronger than a guy that weighs 145? Look, it's a different muscle. It's a denser muscle. When I'm with Volkanovski and I tell him hello and I pat him on the back, it feels different. The guy used to be 96 kilograms in his rugby days. 96 kilograms transfers out to 211 pounds. When he was 211 pounds, in case you've never seen the photos, don't think you're going to go look for some big fat guy. Oh, that was Alex? Ha ha ha. No, not like that. He was lean then. Big muscular legs, big muscular ass. He carried some upper weight. He got that weight off and you think he'd settle in at a 185 pounder. And I'm telling you, this wasn't some guy that looked like he had an obesity issue. It looked like a big, strong, powerful athlete. He went from 211 to 145. There's a reason when you see him with his shirt off, you just see all this muscle. There's a reason his strength is getting put in the categories of strengths going into his fight with Max. He's not a better boxer than Max Holloway. That's blasphemy for you to say that. Not a better boxer than Jose Aldo, but he sure as hell outboxed him. He's not a better wrestler than Max Holloway. Blasphemy that you would say that. But he sure as hell isn't a better grappler than Jose Aldo, and he out-grappled him. I use these examples because Jose Aldo, come on, guys, has there ever been a guy at 145 pounds that's done more than Jose has? Jose deserves some credit, and a guy that can get the jump on Jose deserves some credit. That was the night when Max's, talking Holloway, when his star rocketed, was because he beat Jose. To be the man, you got to beat the man. That's exactly what he did. Oh, then they brought it back, and then he did it again. Second time made it look easier than the first time. Not all bloody, had him all cut up, combos all night long. Max's second fight with Jose Aldo was very similar to Max's one and only fight with Brian Ortega. At least in terms of come out here, I touch you, you don't touch me, I touch you again, you don't touch me, I touch you, I touch you, I touch you, you try to touch me, you missed, I touch you, I mean, he just kept touching him. It wasn't about power. It was like, oh my gosh, did you see that power? Max just stayed busy. He just kept touching his opponent. I can't take that. You'll hear him say effective strikes. Well, how many effective strikes? All strikes are effective. If a little kid on the playground comes up, makes a fist, and punches you, you're going to prefer that he hadn't done it. There's no such thing as an ineffective strike, just for the record. Particularly with professional fighters. It is an impossibility. But I do think that some of the skills and who's better than who seems to get thrown out. It seems to not really matter with Volkanovski because he's coming at you with such a rage, such a terror, such an aggression. And he can make up for a lot of mistakes because of that. He can hide a lot of mistakes like that. He can make a blue belt look like a black belt because of that. He can make sloppy boxing look like striking that I'm not prepared to deal with because of that. I mean, it's like anything else in life, guys. You got one shot to do it perfect, or you got 5 shots and just hope that one of them get through. That's how he fights. And many ways, Max does the same thing. He's just a little bit cleaner. I mean, Max is a pretty tenacious guy that takes center of that ring. He's a bit of a rhythm fighter. Poirier had some success with him because he threw his rhythm off all night long. That being Max's fight will be a great fight for Volkanovski's team to go study, try to copy Poirier. The problem is when you're dealing with somebody with the fight IQ of Max, he's now also aware that that's what happened. He's also aware that his rhythm got thrown off and therefore he never got on to his rhythm. He's going to have made some adjustments. So I do think this is a very compelling fight. It is the first fight I have ever been part of that's for a world championship, where the physical strength of one guy is possibly enough to beat another guy. That other guy's been the champion for a long time. He's got a big IQ, and he's coming off a loss, and a guy like Max learns from those things. He doesn't get down. He doesn't hang his head. He goes back in the gym. He sits with the coaches, and he fixes things. I trust we're going to see a very consistent Volkanovski, and the Volkanovski that we've been seeing has looked great. I really do trust that. I also trust we're going to see a better than ever Max Holloway. And I think that experience in those 25 minutes with Dustin Poirier is what showed Max and taught Max and are going to elevate Max. Who's going to be the winner? Let them boys figure that part out.